There is a sentence from the Bible that at first glance can feel almost unsettling, and yet it carries a surprising depth. Count it all joy when you face trials of many kinds. This idea comes from the Epistle of James, chapter 1, verse 2. And even if you're not particularly familiar with the Bible or religion in general, me neither, it's worth pausing here for a moment. Because beyond its religious context, the Bible contains many observations about human life that are still psychologically and ethically relevant today. Not everything has to be taken literally or believed, but some parts touch on truths that are timeless. This is one of them. Because if we read it superficially, it almost sounds unreasonable. Joy in difficult times, joy when things don't work out, when we fail, when we feel pressure or face uncertainty. That goes against our natural instincts, and that's exactly why this sentence is so often misunderstood. It's not telling you to enjoy suffering or to convince yourself that pain feels good. It never does. It's not about suppressing emotions or forcing artificial positivity. It's about something else, something much deeper, something that has more to do with awareness than with emotion. Count it all joy really means choose a perspective in which challenges are not meaningless, a perspective where difficulties are not just interruptions or setbacks, but part of a process that shapes you. Psychologically, this reflects what we now call reframing, the ability to not judge a situation solely based on your first reaction, but to assign it into a deeper meaning. Not as a form of self-deception, but as a form of inner clarity. Because the truth is, we cannot always control what happens to us. But we do have influence over how we interpret it. And that interpretation determines whether we grow from an experience or break because of it. If you look honestly at your life, you'll likely notice a pattern. The moments that changed you the most were rarely the easy ones. They were the times when you were challenged, when you had to realign, when you had to let go of things you wanted to hold on to, when you were forced to meet yourself in a more honest way. Difficulty creates friction, and friction is a prerequisite for growth. That doesn't mean every crisis is automatically good, but it does mean that every challenge holds the potential for development. And that's exactly where this sentence points. It invites you to consciously recognize that potential. And if you look a little deeper, you begin to see that this idea isn't limited to the Bible. It appears again and again across cultures, times, and spiritual traditions, almost as if it were a fundamental insight of human consciousness itself. In the Bhagavad Gita, for example, it says, "Treat pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat alike." And the wise are not elated by happiness nor shaken by sorrow. Here the focus is not so much on joy in trials, but on equanimity, a deep inner stability that is not dependent on external circumstances. In Buddhism, in the teachings of Gautama Buddha, we find a very similar understanding. Suffering arises from attachment, and through letting go, freedom is found. Difficulties are not seen as flaws in life, but as a part of the path. And in Stoicism, through thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, the same idea appears again. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When you put all of this together, something becomes very clear. This idea is not random. It runs through the collective human experience, appearing in different forms but carrying the same essence. It's not about what happens, it's about how we meet what happens and what we make out of it. And this is something I see over and over in my own work. People come to me who see themselves as victims of their circumstances, who believe that life is working against them, that they have no chance, that they are being punished, that they are powerless. And the tragic part is that very belief begins to shape their reality. Because once someone has deeply internalized that everything is against them, they will find confirmation everywhere. Every difficulty becomes proof. Every challenge reinforces the belief. It turns into a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, an inner worldview that keeps reflecting itself in the outside world. And this is exactly where my work begins. Not by fixing their problems, there's never a quick fix, but by guiding them back into their own responsibility. I help them rebuild themselves from within. I help them feel their inner stability again. I reconnect them to themselves, to life, to something greater. Because the moment a person truly realizes, not just intellectually, but on a deeper level, that they are supported, that they don't have to fight against life, that they don't need to live in fear, everything changes. The moment someone begins to feel that life is not working against them but for them, even if it doesn't always look that way, a completely new reality begins to emerge. And yes, this also means recognizing that our inner beliefs carry immense power. What we think, believe, and feel is not neutral. It shapes how we perceive the world, the decisions we make, and the way we experience life as a whole. This is not about blame, it is about power. Because the moment someone realizes they are not merely at the mercy of life, but actively participating in shaping it, freedom begins. And at the same time, something else becomes clear. Life is not about everything being easy. It's not about having everything handed to you on a silver platter. The comfort zone may feel safe, but it is stagnation. And stagnation means nothing grows. We could also say stagnation is death. Life is movement. Life is development. Life is change. And that's why the real invitation is to see everything, truly everything, as an opportunity for growth. Not to avoid challenges, but to consciously face them, to use the momentum of life to realign, adapt, and evolve. And something important happens along the way. The more often a person walks this path, the easier it becomes. Not because challenges disappear, but because inner strength increases. But there is a condition for that. A person needs to be in their power. Their inner system needs to be stable. They need to feel connected to themselves, to their path, to something greater. Because without that connection, even small changes can feel overwhelming. Everything starts to feel heavy, threatening, exhausting. But when that connection is present, the perspective shifts completely. Resistance turns into movement. Fear turns into growth. Difficulty turns into development. And this brings us back to that ancient sentence, count it all joy. Not because everything is easy, but because you begin to see what is possible within it. Not because you stop feeling, but because you are no longer defined by what you feel. And maybe that is the deeper message that runs through all of these traditions. That true strength is not about living a life without problems, but about becoming someone who can meet whatever comes in a way that allows them to grow. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.